Hello and welcome to Baseplate Reviews. So something a bit different today. Normally we're pretty singularly focused on Lego, and you can see I have got the Lego Super Mario Piranha Plant just there, and also the spiny shell in Insider's Reward, or blue shell, that I just built and I've just put a little mini review up for. But today I've just got Nintendo Switch 2, literally released today on June 5th. So thought we'd do a bit of an unboxing, see what's in there. Plus I've also got a Switch Lite just back there, and also the original Nintendo Switch 2. Sorry, I should say the original Nintendo Switch as well, rather than two. It makes it sound like there's two Nintendo Switch 2s. That came out back in 2017, so 8 years ago now. And I've also got a couple of the original Nintendo Switch accessories, so a Ring Fit. We've got the Pro Controller and also a Nintendo Switch carrying case, just to see whether we can actually use the new Nintendo Switch 2 and its Joy-Cons with those. But let's get to opening this up and seeing what's inside. The very first thing I do need to say is just look at the size of the packaging for the Switch 2 versus the original Switch. Now, this isn't because this is smaller. In fact, the Switch 2 has a 7.9 inch screen. This is 6.2 inch, so I think it really just shows how much better they've got at packaging more than anything else. And it isn't that the Switch 2, its packaging is super kind of bulky in comparison to the original Switches. It's a little bit thicker, but not to account for the overall length of that. That's just huge. What I would also say is this does feel pretty bulky, pretty heavy. Now, I don't have the power supply in there, just because it's a UK power supply, even though I live in Canada. Bought this when I was back in the UK, so I've just left it out of the packaging. But even if I put that in there, I don't think it would be quite as heavy as the Switch 2. But yeah, let's get this one open and see what's inside. Something to mention about the packaging here, apart from the fact that it's super compact versus Nintendo Switch, is that actually this is the Mario Kart World bundle, so includes the full game download, either installed on the system or maybe there's going to be a code in there for me. But there's nothing on this packaging which tells me that, other than a sticker on the outside. So the actual packaging isn't unique, this is just a sticker on the cardboard. And if I spin this around, you should see that, yeah, nothing about Mario Kart World on there, not on the top, just the Nintendo logo. And on the bottom there, we get the specifications of what's inside here. So we get the actual console, we get the left and right Joy-Cons, an AC adapter, a USB charging cable, the Switch 2 dock, the Joy-Con grip, a couple of Joy-Con straps which I probably won't use, and what they say is an ultra high speed HDMI cable. Might end up just using the one that I've already got just because of the length of it, but that's what we can expect to see in here. Let's actually get this open then, and I have already just cut the little seal that was just here. I don't think there's going to be anything other than that. But we've got some instructions just there, so plug it in, set it up. I think fairly self-explanatory, to be honest. But yeah, opens up pretty nicely, and in there we've got the actual console sat down nice and flat, two Joy-Cons at an angle. Let's get those out, see what we've got in underneath. Now, those things we've just taken out are the exciting bits. Here we've got a bit that just lifts out, and yeah, as I thought, we've got a full game download just there. So you won't be able to use it because I've got to scratch off the code, so I'm pretty happy to show you that. That's not a problem. That's kind of what I expected, and then our regular health and safety information. Actually, looks like quite a nice HDMI cable just there, and like I said, those two Joy-Con 2 straps, but nothing too special. What's in the bottom here then? we've got the Joy-Con grip. It looks pretty similar to the regular Switch grip, but definitely isn't. This is going to work with a kind of magnetic clip in there rather than sliding along on the rails. And we've got ourselves our USB cable and our North American power supply. I'm here in Canada. Of course, we all know that the best plugs, the best power supplies are in the UK with the 3-point prongs, but I'm sure this is going to do perfectly well for here. And finally, what have we here? This is going to be the dock itself. So all wrapped up pretty nicely. And yeah, we've got the actual dock. Got some nice shaping at the back there. And comes apart pretty easily for sliding the cables where you need them. So we've got the AC adapter, the HDMI out, also got a LAN port just here as well, and clips back in pretty easily. Shouldn't get too dirty or anything, although you can see fingerprints straight away, they brush away pretty quickly. So the actual exciting bits, let's get this closed up and take a look at the console itself. So these are the bits which actually matter. The cables, not too exciting, but we've got the actual console itself here, and yeah, it looks just like a regular Nintendo Switch really. I'm sure that if you have them side by side you can tell the difference straight away, but otherwise with this one we've got a nice pop out stand at the back that can go all the way up to there, but as you can see, pretty good if you did want to stand this up and use it as a standalone screen. And in terms of what it looks like, nice. Obviously the screen takes up nearly all of it, but the edges, nice kind of matte finish, and the ways that you can tell that it's different from a regular Nintendo Switch are these side bits, and that's where the Joy-Cons, instead of sliding down in, I can feel as soon as I put it near the magnet just clipping into place. And again with the right hand side one, just goes straight in there. That's pretty satisfying actually. And yeah, actually now that I've got it in my hand, definitely feel the kind of length of it, the width of it. Yeah, and to get rid of these Joy-Cons, really easy. There's just a clip on the Joy-Con themselves, just there. So you might be able to see that that's just popping out a little pin there, which allows it to detach. I'll show it from the side here. So I just push in this pin and straight away comes apart nice and easily. So the magnets aren't too strong. I'm sure you could just rip them, wrench them out if you wanted, but I don't think they're going to come loose whilst you're just playing games normally. And in terms of the dock, slides in there really nicely. Definitely pokes over the top quite a lot, and I was expecting that. That's been shown in the pictures. That certainly isn't where the screen is below there, so when it's docked you are going to have that just over the top. But yeah, pretty good. Once I get these Joy-Cons out of there, we do have the Joy-Con straps. They clip into there just like the console itself, and then you can put your hand or wrist through the strap. So if you are playing with the Joy-Con separately and playing something a bit like Wii Sports, or I suppose it would be Nintendo Switch Sports, they're not going to come flying away, to be honest. I think it's just Nintendo being super cautious after quite a lot of TV screens were smashed by original Wii controllers, by people flinging them across the room. I don't think it's so much of an issue with the Joy-Cons, but you know, better safe than sorry, I suppose. Overall, yeah, it looks really nice. Not going to make any kind of claims about how good the system is. I've not switched it on or anything yet. This is just an unboxing of what it looks like. But yeah, looks pretty good like that. If I spin this around to the back, you can see again it is poking up over the top. Oh, that's a horrible noise. And comes out to the side quite a bit as well. In terms of the grip, that's going to work just like the actual console itself, and the Joy-Con straps, yeah, clips into place really nicely. And that feels pretty usable. So I tend to use a Pro controller, but the original Switch Pro controller, I have actually got that beside me just here. And the good thing is that this is actually compatible with the Switch 2. There is a Switch 2 Pro controller, but it's quite a bit of money. I believe it's about $75–80 US. So I think I'll use this one until I need to replace it. It's got a fair bit of wear, but otherwise, yeah, probably better than the actual, you know, Joy-Con grip there. I think that the Switch Pro controller will do the job. In terms of how it feels, yeah, I think pretty similar to the original Switch. Yeah, all the same buttons, apart from the extra C button just there, and I believe that's used for chat and things like that. Otherwise, yeah, if we look to the back, it's definitely not as good as a dedicated controller like you'd get for a PS5 or an Xbox, or like I say, the Pro controller, but I think it will do perfectly well for most people. Okay, for comparisons, let's open up an original Nintendo Switch console box. So this is the regular original one, didn't even have the red and blue Joy-Cons, so pretty drab looking. The difference with the Switch 2 is, although it is the same colours, you do just get a little kind of spot of colour with the blue around the controller there, the red there, and if I pop this open, just on the inside bits. But otherwise quite similar in some respects to the kind of more drab colours of this one. If I open this up, even though the box is much bigger, you'll see that the stuff inside is basically exactly the same as the Switch 2 in terms of the, you know, what the components are. So see, this top tray has the console itself. Again, comes in that cellophane kind of wrap rather than the nicer, or I would say nicer, kind of softer material that the dock and the Joy-Con grip come in. So considering that the screens are surely the bit you want to protect the most, yeah, a little different, probably not preferable. And again, the Joy-Cons come in this top tray. Let's just get the bags put straight back where they came from as well. I've obviously repackaged this up. This is my original Nintendo Switch, and what you can see there is completely different to the Switch 2, which clips in. You've got the rail system here, so yeah, pretty different. And straight away actually I can see this is so much smaller than the Switch 2. Just look at the size difference. The Switch 2 screen is nearly as big as the Joy-Cons and the screen of the Nintendo Switch. So yeah, pretty different. I would also say the Switch 2 does just feel a little bit more premium. It might be just because I've used this quite a lot, but I do think it just feels a little bit nicer, and so it should for the price. But let's see what's in underneath. I haven't got any of the cables, they're the boring bits, but we do get the Joy-Con grip, so the original Nintendo Switch one, and again we've got the Switch 2 one, so you can see the big difference really is the size of it. Also with the Switch you've actually got some bits which come out to the side just there for comfort, whereas the Switch 2 not really there, it's not coming out, you know, you can see it's completely flat at the side versus the Switch. I'm not sure whether that's better. I'm sure they've done lots of testing, but I think that might make that original Nintendo Switch controller feel a bit more like, you know, a more standard controller, whereas this just feels like it is a grip holding the Joy-Cons. Other than that, the other thing in here is going to be the dock. So again, like I say, comes in that nice got a more protective bag, and we can see the regular Nintendo Switch logo versus the Nintendo Switch 2 logo. In terms of size, again this is a bit longer than the Nintendo Switch 2 one, but otherwise not too different in terms of size, and basically the same functionality. Pops open at the back. The Nintendo Switch one, that one is on hinges, so could be damaged, whereas the Nintendo Switch 2 one does just pop open, but again AC adapter, USB, HDMI out, so pretty much, you know, pretty similar. Yeah, and then you've also got your USB ports on the side just there as well. Of course most of those bits aren't too important, how the dock looks, stuff like that, it's all pretty much the same. The important bit is how different the actual consoles feel. Obviously just size wise it is night and day, so if you're using it as a portable, you know, that's really different. Other differences, yeah, not too many. It looks like we've got beefier kind of outputs for the music there, the speakers, versus the original Switch, which was pretty tinny, I would say, in terms of the sound. Other bit that's different, so this is the original Switch game card port just there. Just pull it back like that, so you're pulling it from the front backwards to get it open, and then just pop out the game card just there. With the Switch 2, with regards to that, you're actually pulling it from the back to get it open, and then it kind of sits like that, ready to lock the game card back into place. Yeah, this definitely feels pretty weighty. Let's look at it in comparison to a Switch Lite just to see the difference there as well. Now this is going to be a super quick unboxing because basically it's just one piece. So this is my wife's Nintendo Switch Lite, the Animal Crossing edition, included a download code, so very similar to the Mario Kart World bundle that we've picked up for the Switch 2, except that this actually comes with its own unique packaging, which I think, you know, is a bit nicer for sure. And yeah, sure enough, basically the console in there, download code and stuff in the back there, but otherwise not a lot to see. Let's get that out of the way. And again, just comes in a cellophane kind of wrapper, but wow, that is small. It reminds me of a Game Boy Advance in some respects. If we look at it in comparison to a regular Nintendo Switch, not actually super different in terms of size, but definitely a fair bit smaller. It definitely feels a whole lot lighter. I mean, the weight difference is significant, but versus a Switch 2, I mean, just utterly dominates it. Really is, it's smaller than the size of the screen of the Switch 2. And the Switch 2, I'm holding it out at arm's length there, so it really does start to feel heavy quite quickly. Pretty different once you've got it up close and you've got it in two hands. It feels completely usable, but definitely big weight difference versus the Switch Lite. I can understand why it was called a Switch Lite. Yeah, And again, the Switch Lite with the game card opens up just like the Switch rather than the Switch 2. And it looks like my wife has got in there Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Good game. I want to borrow off her, but she's not finished playing it yet. But yeah, and the Switch Lite's a really nice little console, isn't it? Just, you are losing a lot of kind of functionality because you can't dock it to a TV. I said we'd look at the Switch 2 console versus a couple of original accessories, but I think we can straight away say it's not going to, those Joy-Cons aren't going to fit into the grips just down the side here because they slide on. Not even any space to clip them into place. So that's out. Also, I do have the ring fit ring here as well. Again, the way that the Joy-Con connects onto there, it's not via magnets. So if you do want to keep on playing ring fit on your Nintendo Switch 2, probably do need to keep, well, you definitely need to keep original Joy-Cons so that that's compatible. So although we're saying that the system is backwards compatible, it's not completely backwards compatible. The other thing that I've got here is my Nintendo Switch carry case. This is my Zelda Breath of the Wild one, and straight off the bat I think we can see, certainly with the Joy-Cons on, that's not going to fit in there. But if I do pop those off, I think that that'll actually fit in there pretty well, and it certainly does. So folds up pretty well. Actually, let's put the Joy-Cons in the top here and see whether I can get this zipped close. Oh, it's zipping up pretty readily. Not quite like my suitcase when I go on holiday, but getting close to it. Yeah, do I want to put that pressure on the sticks? Probably not. Maybe if I move them around in there a little bit, then it would fit even better. But might just be about usable as a carry case. I think I will end up getting a new one specific for the Switch 2, just see if it fits there. Not really, but this was a really nice carry case. As you can see, I could include 14 Switch games in there, plus whatever was in the system. So yeah, the other thing that's you can do with the Switch 2 is you can definitely put in Switch games into the system. Just doesn't work the other way around. Let's go for Mario Kart 8, why not? And see how that fits into here. Yeah, straight in, and presumably pretty easy to get out as well. If I pop this around, just press down and it pops straight back up. So yeah, it should all work absolutely fine with my Switch games. The only actual game that I've bought for the Switch 2 is the Mario Kart World one. I think that Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong Bonanza, is coming out in July, and I'm pretty sure I'll pick that one up, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of games coming out afterwards. But yeah, it does feel really satisfying to clip the Joy-Cons into place. I'm sure it's going to feel more satisfying when I'm actually playing a game on there. So I think with that, I'm going to wrap this up in a second and get to getting this system started. Okay then, first impressions are that it does feel a little bit more premium than a Switch Lite or the original Nintendo Switch, and so it should for the price. So I think this is going for 700 Canadian dollars with the Mario Kart World bundle. I think that's 500 US and 430 British pounds, so it's pretty expensive bit of kit. It does feel nice. I think that if you hold off on picking it up, you're going to get some pretty cool additions rather than just the kind of black colour there. So I'm sure you're going to get a Pokemon edition, a Mario edition, that type of thing. What I would say is a bit disappointing that, considering it was a bundle, all that I've got on the box is just that sticker. Otherwise it's just a regular Nintendo Switch 2 with a download code in there on a bit of paper. But yeah, the exciting bit is to come with actually getting this set up and downloading Mario Kart World, seeing how good I can get at it. I'm sure you can tell I'm not a professional at doing these unboxing videos or technology stuff, but I thought I'd do this as a nice little extra. I know I haven't been putting out quite as much Lego content as I wanted. I've just been living my best life, so I got down to Epic Universe down in Florida, the brand new theme park from Universal there. Also watched a few nights of wrestling in Tampa. So I will be getting back to more Lego videos. I'm sure that the Mario Kart set is the one that I'm going to build next and see how the spiny shell compares beside that. And also it's going to make a nice accompaniment near my TV that I play the video game consoles on. So yeah, with that, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, then please do leave a like. Consider subscribing if you're not subscribed already. Like I say, it will be pretty much Lego content. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. And with that, I'll leave you and say, as always, be good.